Hello there, friends. What is up? Derek from Bomb Socks here with more Bomb Bites, where we're feasting upon the words of Christ, one amazing bite at a time. So yesterday we talked about Korihor. We introduced him, the Antichrist, and we see a few of them in the Book of Mormon. And it's interesting because each one of them has a different platform to stand on, but they all are very much driven by Satan. Again, the Book of Mormon will expose the enemies of Christ, just like it does in this chapter right here. So Korihor is driving people away from Jesus Christ and away from hope, and how it talked about how he is interrupting their rejoicings. Well, eventually he is brought before Alma, the chief judge of all the land right there. And what's interesting, as I was thinking about this, you go all the way back to Mosiah chapter 26, where we are introduced to the rising generation. And many of you remember this, how the rising generation, they couldn't understand the words of King Benjamin. They were young children. They didn't believe in the tradition of their fathers. They did not believe what had been said concerning the resurrection, nor did they believe in the coming of Christ, which led to, again, kind of what we talked about last time, losing hope, losing faith, losing the ability to listen to prophets, and all of those things right there. So that is what Korihor was preaching, which is interesting because who does Korihor go before? A former Korihor, if I could use that. I think Alma really understood Korihor. He can understand where this guy is coming from because he was Korihor at one point, and he found his way and was able to turn his life completely around right there. So anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting, he goes before Alma and they banter back and forth through this thing right here. It's like, you don't believe in God. And he's like, you prove to me there's a God. And I love Alma's response because I think what Alma suggests of Korihor is much harder than what Korihor suggests of Alma. I love how Alma, first of all, he bears testimony to Korihor in verse number 39. He says, will ye deny again there's a God, and also deny the Christ? For behold, I say unto you, I know there is a God, and also that Christ shall come. Don't ever underestimate the power of the words I know when you are talking to someone about the gospel, when you are bearing down in pure testimony. Verse number 40, and now what evidence have ye that there is no God, and that Christ cometh not? I say unto you that ye have none, save it be your word only. And then he gets into verse number 41. I have all things as a testimony that these things are true, and ye also have all things as a testimony unto you that they are true. Will ye deny them? Believest thou that these things are true? Behold, I know that thou believest, but thou art possessed with a lying spirit, and you've put off the Spirit of God, that he may have no place in you. But the devil has power over you. He doth carry you about, working devices, that he may destroy the children of God. Well, Korihor does the worst thing you ever can do. Don't ever do this. This is verse number 43, because you will get your answer, by the way. And now Korihor said unto Alma, if thou wilt show me a sign, don't do that I may be convinced there is a God. Yea, show unto me that he hath all power, and then I will be convinced of the truth of thy words. Remember, God answers prayers, and you're going to see it happen here in a second. I remember Jesus in the New Testament talks about how he says, a wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. And I've never really tied those two together. Actually, a few years ago, I wanted to try to figure out what that meant, because it seemed like sign seeking and adultery were two very different things. But you get to the root of both of them, they are so similar. Both of them are seeking a false experience rather than a real experience right there. You look at someone, why they commit adultery. They are usually trying to go after a false experience of some kind right there. And the idea with sign seeking is the same. You take 20 years of praying and fasting and reading scriptures and having experiences with serving a mission and I mean, there's so many, marrying in the temple, having and serving in church callings, years of building a testimony. And then you all of a sudden have someone come in that just says, hey, you know what? Show me a sign and I'll believe, to where everybody else has worked so hard over the years to be able to do that. That is an adulterous type of situation, because that person is seeking a false experience. And Korihor says, show me a sign. And Alma in verse 44 gives one of the best verses. He says, Alma said unto him, thou hast had signs enough. Will ye tempt your God? Will ye say, show unto me a sign, when ye have the testimony of all these thy brethren, and also all the holy prophets? The scriptures are laid before thee. Yea, and all things denote there is a God. Yea, even the earth and all things that are upon the face of it. Yea, and its motion. Yea, all the planets which move in their regular form do witness that there is a supreme creator. So all things denote there is a God. Wonderful verse of scripture, and that's a wonderful truth taught right there. Everything around you testifies that there is a God. And so I wanted to try something with you here, and you could do this as an individual, you can do it as a family. I actually picked 5 random items. I didn't go searching through the house. I just grabbed the first 5 that I found on my way to record this right here. I found a tape measure, okay? I found a set of wireless earbuds. I found some magnets. My 10-year-old will love this because these are his. I found a essential oil diffuser. And I have a water bottle, and if you want to make it really easy, a flashlight. And I also found a box of tissues. So if you want to take a second, and you can pause the video right here and decide how each of these things denote that there is a God. You can rewind back and see them all again right here. All things denote that there is a God. And some of these are super easy. Some of them are gonna, again, I just want you to see how each of these things could remind you of God in some way. So pause the video and give it a shot. Okay, hopefully you had a little fun time with that right there. It's interesting. I've done this in my seminary classroom. I've done it in other gospel settings where I just pick random items. I'll just be like, this. How does this remind you that there is a God? So the story of Korihor takes a tragic end as he gets his wish. God answers prayers. He says, show unto me a sign that I may see the power of God. And Alma's like, okay, you're going to be struck dumb. And then all of a sudden, Korihor loses his abilities to communicate. And even writes down to Alma, I always believed that there was a God. And he ends up going in and he goes from house to house amongst the Zoramites, he's begging for his food, and he ends up getting trampled by them. And you get to one of the most sobering verses of the Book of Mormon when you go down to verse number 60. Now, this is Mormon's, whenever you see the phrase, and thus we see, boy, pay close attention. This is Mormon saying, hey, you people in the year 2020, listen carefully. This is the message that this story is going to give you right here. So you go down to verse number 60, and it says, and thus we see the end of him who perverteth the ways of the Lord. And thus we see that the devil will not support his children at the last day, but doth speedily drag them down to hell. Again, a sobering way to end this story. But again, this whole story is here to show you the way Satan works. Just like I shared with you last time, how the Book of Mormon is going to expose the enemies of Christ, and it certainly does it here as well. So that's Alma 30 for you right there. Tomorrow we're going to hit Alma 31, and there's a lot of great stuff in Alma 31. So stay tuned for tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for sharing our messages. You guys are amazing. We love the feedback that you're giving us. We appreciate it. So glad these messages are helping you out. You guys have an amazing day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Godspeed. Bye-bye.